What's going on, man? It's good to see you. It's been 10 years probably since the last time I've seen you in person.
Yeah.
Um so
It's crazy to say that out loud.
yeah, well, dude, I remember back in the day and it was what, Matt Schwartz
Mhm.
and Scott, and they had the downstairs basement apartment that was rat infested.
Y it's funny you mentioned Scott. Scott just got married this past weekend. I went to his wedding.
Congratulations to Scott and also congratulations to you.
Yes,
Um
I got married too last month. Yeah.
So, and music is your dude, that's amazing. Do you guys both play music or are you
Like me and my wife?
like yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, we've she doesn't play music, but we've written songs together and stuff for, like, 'cause um, got her BA at Berkeley Online for music business.
Wow.
Yeah, so she did it all virtually, and, like, for music business, she had to take, like, some songwriting classes, and I helped her out with that, so that was kind of a fun little thing that we did together. Yeah, we've, like, written, like, fun little songs together, we wrote a song for our dog.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like a little theme song, it was cute.
So, um are you still into making beats and stuff like that? Is that kind of where your forte is at this point? Is, as a songwriter, would you say you're more of a maker of beats? And I mean, I know you write songs too, because bed scenes. I, by the way, love all the bed scene stuff. I think it's great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's funny 'cause, when I was up in Boston, that was, like, my introduction to electronic music, so I got, like, really into making beats and, like, hip hop and, like, house, EDM, all that stuff just kinda came at the same time, so I was learning how to produce all that stuff, like, while I was up there, and I kinda just fell into that crowd with, like, John and, like, that whole, like,
John and Jonas or Jonas, I guess.
Jonas, yeah, yeah, actually, Jonas came to my wedding, he flew all the way in from Germany, and
No way.
I still keep in contact with him. He was actually the first one to introduce me to electronic music. Um, showed me he was like he showed me his, like, APC MIDI controller, and he's like, "If you buy one of these, you get a free copy of Ableton Lite, and you just start making beats, like, right away." So I was like, "Oh, cool." So, like, I remember I went and I got an APC 20 from, like, I don't even remember where I got that. Probably from, like, Daddy's Music. It was like that
The
Guitar
old
Center before before it was a Guitar Center. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I think I got it there. I don't remember. And, like, uh, yeah, I installed Ableton Lite and I just started making electronic music. Um, and that was like what, 2010, 2011. And since then, like, after I graduated, Berkeley, I came down here. I started doing, like, music for commercials and stuff. And that's, like, where, like, my songwriting ability and my production knowledge that, like, I learned in Berkeley and stuff like that kind of just came together, and I got really good at just, like, producing songs with electronic elements, and that's kind of eventually where, like, bed scene kind of evolved out of, you know.
Right. But I noticed too, like you bring in a lot of influences with a lot of the early kind of 2000s ish grunge s kind of stuff. Kind of like I don't know if you've ever listened to like Pity Sex or I mean like that whole era, I guess, of Foxy Shazam and
Hmm.
that. And
Well, yeah, yeah. It's funny you mentioned Fox and Shazam. One of my early bands opened up for them, and like, early high school bands, we opened up for them, and they were like, we were part of, like, their first, like, when they first toured and, like, they came down to Miami for the first time, like, one of my bands, like, opened up for them, and, like, they actually stayed at my singer's house in the Keys. So, it's funny you mentioned them. Yeah, like, there's definitely, like, influence of that, just, like, sprinkled throughout. I mean, it's it's my era, you know.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I mean, dude, I was actually listening to like Dance Gavin Dance the other day. I
Mhm.
don't know if you're ever a fan of
Yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
but it's just like super nostalgic now. I mean, I still listen to him from time to time, but now I feel like what I listened to back then, or bands I would hate on in the 2010s, like Radiohead or something. Now I'm like in love with Radiohead or the
Oh,
News Mars Volta. Have you listened to the News Mars Volta record?
I have actually. Yeah, it's funny. You talk to like an old school Mars Volta fan, and they're like they'll just like hate on it just because they're like stuck in that you know Francis the Mute, D Loud's in the Comatorium like era of Mars
Uh,
Volta. But I really liked it. I thought it was cool. I mean, you can't expect a band to stay the same either, you know. So
No, but also too, to me, it's the Mars Volta in a nutshell of itself because it's like you take Omar. I mean, Omar's just a revolutionary guy. I mean, and he's an innovator. So it's like to
Thank
me,
you.
it's always been innovative. um,
totally, I love like I don't know if you've heard like Bosnian Rainbows.
yeah. Or have you ever listened to his brother's band, like Getting Paid? Like
No.
there was like a one album release of his brother's music, and I think he was on like a few songs and he produced it, but it was really cool. But yeah, it's just crazy how they've evolved over the years. I mean, even like the Omar Rodriguez Lopez project solo
Mhm.
stuff is pretty cool. I feel like they turned into the Mars Volta meets Radiohead now, like with a new album.
Yeah, yeah, I did kind of get that a little bit. A lot of like these older groups and like artists are kind of like they're sort of like playing into like their sound a lot. Kind of like revisiting like back what they were like originally like known for. I don't know if you've heard like the new Bjork album too. She kind of like is it's definitely not similar to like what she used to sound like, but she's sort of like just really focusing in on like a lot of like what makes her sound like herself, but she's also incorporating like Latin like reggaeton rhythms and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. It's like pushing the boundary a little bit, but it's at the same time it's like this is you know what what's always been Bjork and everything. And same thing with like the Mars Volta. Mars Volta, it's like now I think like I heard like not Omar, sorry, Cedric is like probably took like singing lessons and now he sounds like like not better, but you know what I mean. Like he just
Yeah.
sounds like more like refined and stuff. And like that's what you want in a band. It's like you want them to like sort of evolve over time.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to any of, I mean, our favorite bands. I mean, like you take like the very first Coheed and Cambria record, right? And
Oh
then
man.
you listen to what they've become today. I mean, I love you, everybody that plays in Coheed, but I kind of think it's gotten a little cheesy. But
Oh, dude, don't even get me started with Coheed. I was like a huge Coheed fan in high school. They were like everything that has like a concept. Like I'm a sucker for concept albums and like concept stories and stuff like that. Like when I first discovered Coheed, I was like just coming out of like listening to like pop punk and like emo. It was like short lived. I was listening to like all that stuff, but like when I heard we discovered Code and Cambria, I was like, oh, this is like pop punk with like a progressive sort of twist, and like there's like a concept story. I was like, this is so dope. So the first two albums were like classic, super like exactly what they were. You know, it like hit the spot for me. But I think like after the third album, they just started going down for me. It was just like I don't know if it was me getting older, and my taste was changing, or if it was just like them like I don't know, becoming like overly like cheesy and progressive and
yeah.
not my thing anymore, you know?
So, um, to break away kind of from talking about Coheed and stuff,
Yeah, sure.
you're still playing bass though, right? Are you practicing
Uh,
these days or still
yeah.
shedding the chops? Yeah, I see the jazz bass.
Yeah, yeah, I was actually I wasn't playing it for a long time. It was like kind of just in my closet in the case for a long time. About was it like 7 years ago? Maybe no, less. Must have been like 5 or 6 years ago. I was like in a like punk band with like a couple friends, and maybe I was playing bass in this punk band and like doing backup singing, and it was short lived. I only did it for like maybe like a year and a half or 2 years. It was cool, but that was the last time I was like playing bass in a band. And then after that, I started focusing on bed scene. And bed scene, I was like, when we played live, I was playing guitar and singing, and I would only play bass when I would record songs. So it was still out and about, but now like as of lately, I was like not even recording bass on tracks. I was like using like either MIDI bass or like synth bass, and it was only recently like I took it out because I kind of missed playing bass, and yeah, it's funny. Scott actually reached out to me, or we started talking again, and we were like, hey, we should jam. And I went over his house, and we just started playing bass again, and I got excited about just like learning tunes and stuff on bass. So that yeah, it's super recent getting back to it.
Well, congratulations. I mean, I'm also recently kind of getting back more into a well regimented like practice routine with
Mhm.
bass. So I understand your kind of confliction, because like I also too think synth bass is infinitely better than regular bass in recordings. It's just fatter and just like it's punchier, and you can make it more articulate than what you can do with a normal bass. And, I mean, it also depends on what kind of sound you're going for, but
Yeah, I mean, speak from like a producer's perspective, like a music producer's perspective. Like whenever I would record real bass, I s- sometimes would even like layer it with like a sub, or like a synth bass, so it would cut more,
yeah.
and it would just like fill that lower sub level that you just can't really. I mean, you could get with like a regular bass, but um, sometimes it's just like it
It's
just
just not cutting the mustard.
yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. So this trying to think here. Um as far as like your commercial work, how did you just kind of get into doing that?
um, I fell into it kind of by accident. It was kind of a funny story. When I got back from Boston, I was like, just like looking for work. I was like applying to teaching jobs and stuff. Um, I was unemployed for like a couple months, and then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, um, there's like this party at a studio. You should go and just like network and stuff." So I went, and when I went, I got like I met up with a friend that I used to know back in like high school who was working at a music house, like a music studio and stuff, and uh, you know, I pretty much told him I was like, "Hey, I'm back from Berkeley. I'm looking for work and stuff." And he's like, "Oh yeah, and like that kind of like network, he immediately just like within like within like 2 months after that like reacquaintance, I like was already working at a studio like full time as like an engineer, music producer,
Oh,
like making commercials, and I was there for like about 4 years until I like shifted over to like other studios, and then now I'm like completely like freelance. So now I'm like working for like multiple.
and do you do a lot of this stuff from home, just using,
Yeah.
tools at your
Um
disposal?
yeah, at first I was using like the studio, but now I kind of learned how to do it just like all like in the box, just by myself, like
Yeah.
in out of my own computer. So yeah, like I have like plugins and stuff that just like help me come up with ideas really quickly. and it's still like, yeah, like I'll get like an email from like a producer, a music producer or whatever, saying like, hey, there's like this spot, for I don't know, X brand Toyota, whatever. And we're in need of a track. Do you have anything that sounds like this? And if I tend to have a track sometimes in like my library of just like old tunes that are just sitting there. Uh, Usually I have to kind of like revamp it a little bit for it to fit the brief. But um, if I don't, I'll just make it real quick. And that's another thing. It's like you learn how to make tracks really quickly because it's usually just like 30 to 60 seconds worth of music. So it's like, hey, we need a song that sounds like, I don't know, Daft Punk or whatever, like some dancey
Sure.
stuff. Like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And I can easily make that, 30 seconds to like 60 seconds is like either I have it in my library, and if I don't, I'll put something together, real quick. So you get really good at making quick ideas that are like 60 a minute long ideas, um which also helps for like my own, for bed scene too,
Yeah,
all these
definitely.
ideas just get kind of recycled.
Now, would you say from 10 years ago when you first started getting into producing and making electronic music, has the improvement in technology also made your life a lot easier as well? I would assume so.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's so yeah, there's like plugins that I have now that I wish I would have had like when I was first starting out. Because like there's this plugin that I have now that like it's called Arcade. Have you heard of it?
No, no,
Arcade
I haven't.
by Output, I think. It's such an awesome plugin. It pretty much like just like it gives you just like a bunch of samples in, and it organizes all the samples for you depending on like the style, and it also helps you like if you're trying to produce something in a specific key, it like you could toggle between keys. So instead of like going through like your sample library and like figuring out the key just by ear, or like you know figuring it out in like in your DAW or whatever, it kind of just like it helps you just by exactly what you're doing or what you're getting just by like toggling through, and it's like all organized. So instead of just like going through Splice, oh, like all these like sample libraries were just like, oh, I want to like go through all these like sounds and see if it sounds good. Like exactly like, okay, this is going to be in this key, and it's like for this style, and it's so much more organized. And like if I would have had that like 10 years ago, I probably would have. I have no idea. I would have like,
Made platinum records.
oh yeah, I would have made so much more music, so or like released so much more music so much faster, because that was the thing back in the day. Like um, you there was like a lot more like especially because I was still starting out. I was so hesitant of like, does this sound good? I wasn't like as confident as I am now. So, and like these plugins definitely help with like making stuff sound good because it's already organized. It like sort of streamlines it for you.
That's awesome. So, like, does I mean, it probably just kept all around with the workflow from creativity for everything. It just makes everything just down to a T, like just easier. Like, would you? I
Yeah,
mean, I guess AI technology too probably plays a big role in all of this.
yeah, AI. Oh man, yeah. I've I, have you seen like the AI art now, like Midjourney and like all that stuff? Like
Yeah, I have a few apps on my phone that I like to play
it's
around with.
it's really cool. I mean, it's like there's so much like controversy behind it, whether it's like real art or whatever. Like I think the fact that it's pissing people off makes it like art.
Yeah. I, I I would 100% agree with that.
It's just like, hey, like it's doing exactly what like art does. It's controversial, but um There is I've discovered I found this website. Um, it's kind of like AI for music. And again, AI, like all that stuff, is eventually going to become very like specific. You know, you're gonna there's gonna be plugins that are eventually gonna be developed that are AI, like that have some sort of AI involved, where they like, hey, I need this kind of melody, and it sort of spits out, or this kind of progression, it sort of spits out exactly what you're looking for, depending on like the prompt or like
Type it in.
you
Need badass song, make me millions dollars.
Exactly. Well, I mean, something along those lines. I know I found this one called Ava, AIVA. I think it stands for Artificial Intelligence Virtual Artist. And it's kind of like Mid-Journey, where it's like, it's like a monthly sort of subscription thing, but you select, instead of like typing in, you select, like, it prompts you for like, maybe it gives you like 4 questions. It's like, what in what style, and you pick the style. What's the tempo? You pick like the tempo range, and then the key. And then with that, it sort of like spits out an algorithmically generated piece of music, depending on how long you set it for. um and depending on like the what is it, the subscription plan you have, you either own the music or you don't. It's like you have the license for it, da, 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 all that stuff. But
That's
it's like,
really interesting.
it is really interesting, and there's actually a TED talk with like the owner, or like a founder of it, and like the way he explained it was like really really cool, because um he like shows that scene from the movie I, Robot. I don't know if you remember that movie with Will Smith,
Oh yeah, of
where
course.
yeah, where he like asks, he's like, could could a robot write an orchestra? And then he's like, in the TED talk, he's like, actually, yeah, like it can. And the reason it can is because if you kind of combine, or like select like a big chunk of like music from like like, let's say, you classical music, let's say, you sort of like, um uh categorize like all of Beethoven's music, you could sort of code like the melodies, and sort of like put that into an AI, and they could, depending on like how Beethoven would normally write his music, depending on his phrasing, his choice of notes, all that, you could technically code a piece of music. So it was like really interesting how he was just like, yeah, like robots could actually write music. Like, you know, there's nothing like
So what you're saying is it's the end of the world, and we got to get Arnold Schwarzenegger to Skynet to save us all.
get out of here.
This is actually really cool though, because just Keith and I were having a conversation about this the other day. How uh, a lot of people are afraid of being replaced, right? It's replacing the artist. But a
Right.
lot of what you were talking about really made it seem like a fantastic tool, which is what I think is ultimately going to be what it's going to be used at, right?
Yeah, I don't believe that like AI is going to replace human creativity, or human like expression. Like, there's no way. There's no way. Like, humans will forever have the need to be creative. Um, like, to me, I find it super useful for, like, for example, in this like that website, that Ava website, where like you just set like the, answer the questions, and it spits out a piece of music for you. You could, like, depending on your plan, you could set it so that you could also download the stems. So it's like, for example, me as someone that needs music really quickly for a commercial, just, why not? Hypothetically speaking, I'll like I'll put it in, you know, I'll put it in so that it like gives me the stems. Like, I'll put in like, hey, like I need this kind of music for this amount of time, and then I'll download the stems of it, and then from there I don't have to like stay with what the AI gave me. I can like arrange it and like build on it. And
So it's almost an exercise unto itself.
exactly, it kind of becomes like a thing where, yeah, it's like a tool where like you could use it uh for what it is, or you could build upon it. And I think eventually, like we as creative individuals, as people that, you know, creative people, like we will have to. It's like in our nature to like build on this create like cr- our creative selves will just like we will be continuously adding on this upon this because it's in our nature. I think it's
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I think just because AI technology will be able to create a lot for us, I don't think that's going to necessarily stop human creativity.
right.
So, like it'll just be another tool, and nor do I think AI will ever get to the point to where it will be human.
Right.
Because how can a computer or an algorithm actually uh,
Gotta
create
program it in.
emotion? Yeah. Yeah, we'll get Nick to program it in for us.
Make people sad. Okay. No, yeah, I mean, if you think about it historically, um, uh, people thought that when recording technology came out, that was going to be the end. Um, for example, well, yeah, I think it was John Philip Sousa. You know John Philip Sousa,
Yeah.
like
Marching
March.
band.
Yeah. He hated recording technology, and he was like stated there was he was like on record saying that like this recording technology is like the death of musicians, you know. And like recording technology at the time actually like put a lot of musicians out of work because um before recording technology, you know, you'd have families that were like it was like a mom and dad and like 8 kids, and like you would buy a piano and you would send one of your kids to get piano lessons, and to hear your favorite song you would either have to, you know, pay a lot of money to go see it in concert, or you would send your kid to get piano lessons, and you would go to like the piano store and then you would buy the piece of music, and like your kid would learn the piano, the piece, and then at home you would tell your kid, hey, play me that song I like, and he would play it. And that's the only way you really would be able to listen to music. Even in like during like the silent film era, like before recorded technology, like you would go see a movie and there would be like a pit with like live musicians playing music to the movie. When recorded music came out, or recording technology came out, that put a lot of those work musicians out of a job.
Hmm.
But what ended up happening is that it created a whole new different um,
Industry.
industry. Yeah, exactly. Like for music, exactly. Like music labels started. Music labels, music. Yeah, like that was during like the early 1900s. Yeah, it was like, you know, where recorded music started happening, and you could like, and radio, you know, you could like listen to music on the radio. That was a huge thing, and it,
Right.
you know, so yeah, exactly. I think like going back to like AI, I think that's just kind of like the next thing is like AI. Like you could create music, you could literally tell a computer to make music for you, but I think that's just going to be like a way to just kind of create a whole new different maybe industry. Who knows? You know?
Yeah, that'd be sick. So you'd be able to download the stems too, and then you could still add your own creative touch to it because there's plenty of AI generated artwork pieces that I've seen online, whether
Mm-hmm.
they're real or not. I'm like, you know, I'm sure if somebody had the ability to manipulate this a little bit even further, it would be a lot cooler.
Yeah, you can kind of tell when it's AI. I'm starting to like see it now. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's an AI thing. That's an AI.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you follow like GPU technology or anything like that, but I mean, like Nvidia just came out with their 40 series graphics cards,
Oh
and
yeah.
dude, the amount of AI mapping and like insane tech that goes into just this tiny little GPU for consumers is insane.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, I mean, I was looking at some of the AI generated like movies and stuff that they've done with the just these small graphics cards, and it's amazing.
Yeah. What's super, it's like super interesting, but also like really scary to think about is like deep fakes and AI. Those two things.
And that's why we need to keep Arnold alive, and we need to keep, because he knows how to save us all.
He knows. You have to get that from here. I mean, it's super fascinating to think about. I mean, like we're like at the dawn of this new like era for like technology, and now like I mentioned this before, like like there could possibly be like a new industry like regarding like AI, and there will for sure be jobs based on like machine learning and like being able to communicate with machines and like having that like I heard this one guy, this one professor of computer science from like a university. I was like watching like this course, and he was like, knowing how to talk or knowing coding, for example, like the machine language and stuff, is the closest thing to a superpower you can have, because it's literally like it's like a like Beastmaster. It's like knowing how to communicate with like these machines, and that's super powerful in the coming age. You know,
Yeah,
so it's super inspiring, super like fascinating.
I look at it, it's like it's everything all at once. I mean, too, I mean, like, okay, with the phenomenon now of electric cars, you know, mechanics are going to be out of a job here soon, and they're all going to have to become IT specialists and know how to,
Right, right, exactly. Like, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. No, it's just like everybody's going to have to be an IT specialist and be like, hey, what's happening with the motor, and like, why is it stuck here? And then they're going to have to go in, and then they're going to have to fucking defrag it and figure it out. But at the end of the day, I do think, there will always be a need for analog of some kind, because like I said, I think technology will only go so far.
Yeah, I think there's also going to be a love for analog, because like for example, the most purchased piece of like merchandise for music are still records, and like for a while records were kind of going down when CDs were out. Then CDs kind of went out, like of nobody buys CDs anymore, but people still buy records, and like that says something. People like that like analog, like organic, like piece of hardware that you could just like have.
Right, it's about the experience. It's not just about the media, it's also the medium through which you're performing it, and also having the physical copy. It's just, it's a collector's item.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge vinyl collector myself. I think I have, last time I counted, I think I have 560 records. And yeah, I'm pretty adamant about buying vinyl because A, I think it's a great way to support the artist. B, I think the amount of, it's the highest quality of fidelity that you can possibly get, right? Streaming music is just kind of garbage to a certain extent, which I hope, yeah, it's extremely convenient. And I don't think most people are going to be able to recognize the difference between a record and, a streaming platform.
Well, the thing with streaming is that you stream for the masses, right? Like you have like you put stuff up for streaming so that everyone could have access to listening to you. But the record is like it's more of like, yeah, for the people that like really like the collector's item. It's like what the people that really like it or like the music and really want to support. So they go in and they buy like the physical piece of music. Um, CDs just didn't really do that. I mean, they're smaller, they're digital, it's
Right,
not.
because they've been completely replaced by streaming. You can own the same exact thing that's on a CD on your local device, your phone, whatever it is, and take it
Exactly.
anywhere. The
Exactly.
record, you're not going to get the same feel, the same sound, and the tactile like touch to like placing it down, putting the
Right,
needle down.
right. It's kind of an experience, and that here's the thing, like back in the day, people used to like listen to albums, like they would buy like, oh,
Oh, nice.
nice.
I'll bust out some Pavarotti for you.
That's great. Yeah, like now people don't really listen to albums anymore as much. I still love albums, but like you'll have like people listening to like just like putting songs on a playlist. And it's just like that's like what they listen to. It's like, oh, I made my playlist. It's like the same as what's up?
No, I was just gonna say that I also think it cheapens the listening experience when you always have music at your fingertips. So like when I take the experience of buying and purchasing of, vinyl record, and like let's say if I go to record store day and it's a limited edition run of I don't know, Coheed and Cambria's, Welcome Home album, and it's on a picture disc and there was only 500 made in the whole entire world, and then when you get to go home and have the pleasure of, cracking the seal, that's if you're, don't want to collect it. I open up all that shit.
Mhm.
But and dropping the needle on it and listening to it. I mean, it's a great pleasurable experience because to me it's like you're participating in the real world and
Yeah,
it's just all physical. It's
for
like going
sure.
outside and touching grass.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. Yeah, there is like a sort of like ritual-esque feeling to it when you like take the record out and you put the record on and like as you're playing the record you're like looking at like the artwork,
The liner notes, the
the
lyrics.
reading, the lyrics. Oh, dude, I would do that all the time, just like reading the lyrics off of like the sleeve or
Right,
that
exactly.
was
And
a huge thing.
I mean, and also too, like, rolling up a doobie on the, the nice sleeve, making the whole experience of listening to vinyl records, just not that I condone any of this, just for everybody to know.
We need a Pink Floyd record, dude.
Dude, oh, that was a great record, man. You listen to Dark Side, dude, you got Alice in Wonderland, bro. Let's put it on.
Dude, I heard that if you put on Alice in Wonderland,
It like sinks, man, and it's like it was almost like it was made for it. I wonder, whoa, and it's a big, huge epiphany moment. Like,
oh jeez, yeah, I heard about that. But I mean, couldn't you do that with like any movie, like not any movie, but like
I don't know. Let's get Top Gun and put I don't know what kind of album. Let's put Dark Side to Top Gun. Let's see if that works.
hey, I guarantee it'll just make Top Gun a different type of movie, but it'll still work.
Isn't that crazy though? How like a soundscape of a movie will completely change its experience.
Dude, yeah. That was actually I remember there were like projects like during like our Berkeley time that I remember doing like scoring projects that I would do like or it like I would get like a piece of music or like a piece of a video, that's like a clip, and then like um one project would be like score this with like heartfelt music and then score the same clip with like creepy music, and it's like the same clip but the dual like the difference between those the music almost kind of becomes like a third character in like a the viewing experience because it's like telling you how to feel.
Right.
It's super interesting how like music has that power.
Yeah, dude, I because like think about it. Imagine like like the West Hollywood shootout. You guys are familiar with the West Hollywood shootout in the 90s that took place. Now imagine that scene with like the Beach Boys playing in the background. while everybody's getting gunned down.
Well, I
Change
mean,
the scenario completely. It'd be a happy scene.
like
Too dark.
I would argue that it would make it darker, to be honest, because like you
Okay.
expect it to be like this like really ominous, like like a scene like that, right? You expect it to be like really ominous and like really dark and like maybe really dark orchestral or something like that, like O Fortuna or like Requiem or something like that, like just like really intense. But like Tarantino actually does that a lot, where he like, like in Reservoir Dogs, when he's cutting off the guy's ear, he's putting on like Stuck in the Middle with You. It's just like that song, and it's like super kind of beachy, and it's just like, dude, the guy's getting his ear cut off, and he's playing the song.
Right. It almost like lets you into like the sickness of the person doing
Exactly.
the deed, that they're just
Right.
like, this is just an everyday day for this weirdo.
Exactly. And that's why it's just like you can get, that's kind of like an abstract sort of like example, but like it's kind of cool how you could do that. Like, so like something like the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys is like, you know, Surfing USA, all that stuff is just like super like kind of bubbly, super bubblegum, but like you put it next to like juxtapose it with like really dark imagery, it's just like it makes it worse.
Yeah.
A lot darker.
Good point. Good point. Have you watched the new Jeffrey Dahmer series on Netflix?
We finished it a couple days ago.
What have you watched it, Omar?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll
I
then
mean,
we'll
go ahead and spoil it because I'm not a watch stuff kind of guy.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
what
It's
did you think of, like, I mean, I watched the first episode and that's kind of the extent of I know, but what did you think of the whole series as like a complete, like, I know more about it than just like the series, but like him coming back as a reborn Christian and getting baptized and stuff like that. Did you find that like kind of demonic within itself? I mean, I kind of do.
Yeah, it's funny because like there's like so much controversy behind that show now, because like it's like being very accurate to like what happened. Like they're using like even like the same like outfits of like what they were wearing during the court, uh, the court trials and all that stuff. Um, yeah, like I think in the last episode or two, he in the script they kind of, he talks about that. He's like, when he's talking to the priest, he's like, do you think that some people are just born evil? And I remember thinking, I was like, wow, that's really deep, because it's like, yeah, maybe he was. I was talking to my wife about this, like because I was watching and I was like, I kind of feel bad, not for him, but like for just like the whole like his whole like upbringing experience. He probably had like, he was probably born with these tendencies of like being evil, but because all like it's like all the wrong pieces fit into place
Right.
in a way. Like it was like he had like this potential to become evil, but like, and it actually happened because like of everything that happened with his like upbringing, his dad introducing him to like dissecting roadkill, his mom being like having postpartum depression, and during a time when uh that we didn't even really know that that was even a thing. um he got like bullied in school, all that stuff is just like all the pieces kind of fell into place for him to just like become like evil. And yeah, I think that's very like very possible, and like the human mind is a very very intense thing, could go in that direction easily.
Now, did you hear any Beach Boys at all throughout the series?
No, not Beach Boys. Was there any? I don't know. I don't think there was any like songs. I don't remember hearing any songs. I think it was all scored. This is like a serious question. Serious answer. But yeah, I think it was all scored.
Do you know who scored it?
No, I don't.
No.
I should look that up. Should look that up.
I got you guys. I'm IMDb on the way.
Uh-oh. Omar's got our backs. But yeah, man, I think film scoring is probably one of the most underrated forms of music, maybe. Just because, like, it's not something that people are going to go out of their way to listen to, but unless if they're in a movie situation.
Yeah, I've met a few, like a couple of people that are like, yeah, like I love like soundtracks. I love like, Disney soundtracks, or like, soundtracks to movies. Like they'll like full on listen to like, you know, just soundtracks of their favorite movies, because it's just like, I think the soundtrack, like the music to film or to picture, is, I think that's always that's always gone hand in hand. I think 100%. Since like the beginning of like recorded music has always been put into movies. Like that was like, I think, one of the first things they did when it's like, oh, we could record songs now. They put it in movies. Um, it's always been a thing. And
Well, actually, if you think of like silent films, you had music in movies before you had dialogue in movies.
that, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, that was a thing, and like the music even kind of told a story.
Yeah.
And before you had like film composers, you had songs that they would license, like classical music from
Yeah.
like, the maybe like contemporary classical music that was around. One of the Probably one of the first recorded pieces of music, like in the early 20th century, that wasn't like really meant to be part of like the movie. They would just license it because the music supervisor probably was like, "Oh yeah, like this fits the vibe,"
Now, do you
By the way, I'm sorry to cut you off, man. I did find the writers of the music. You have Nick Cave and Warren Ellis.
no way Nick Cave wrote that? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I don't know who that is.
No way, Nick
Yeah,
Cave.
no, you never
Nick
listened to
Cave?
Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds?
Yeah, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Holy shit, that's a fun fact. And
All
Ellis,
right.
And Warren Ellis is the Australian composer, the Australian musician, not Warren Ellis, the comic book writer.
Okay.
oh,
In case
oh,
anybody's watching and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
gets that confused.
Okay, yeah. So Warren Ellis was, he's a collaborator and bandmate of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Oh.
So good to know. Wow, very interesting.
I did not know that. I didn't know Nick Cave even did anything with film, to be honest. But
Well, he did do the theme song. Well, I mean, the theme song for the Peaky Blinders is a Nick Cave song that was he wrote like years ago, like probably 20 years ago, I think, and they just like used it.
cool.
And so yeah, and Peaky Blinders, actually, if you it's I think they use a little bit of score music, but a lot of it is repurposed pop songs. So they'll take like songs and they'll just kind of incorporate it into the what's it called, the episode.
The episode, yeah.
Mhm.
So my question to you is, do you think music almost kind of it it's the ultimate form of conveying emotion? Like, do you think of music like that and being in that realm? Because, like, okay, we have film, cinema, and all that stuff, but do you think without music at this stage in the game, cinema would be basically nothing in the art world?
I think music definitely helps cinema a lot. However, in terms of art, because you have like all kinds of art now, right? You have
AI
music,
art.
you have AI art, but like you have, film, painting, visual arts, all that stuff. I think music is definitely the most abstract, um, because you're like you can't physically see music, you can't touch music, but you could hear music, and it's something that music can tell a story without you having to even like see or touch it. And I think that's always been something that I've really kind of found fascinating about
It's
music.
magic. I mean, that's
It's
the way I look at it.
it's
It's
super
literal magic.
It's super magical. Yeah, it's something that it's the most abstract form of art that you could possibly experience. And I've always found that to be, I mean, that's probably also why it's so hard to make money off of music too, because it's so abstract. Like and the forms in which you do make money off music usually tend to be in correlation with some sort of visual media, like commercials, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or or performing live. You go see a band. It's hard to be a musician, or to be a composer, music, someone that makes music, and like be super successful with it, because also it's a very, I mean, it's also become very easy to make music too nowadays. So it's not only is it abstract, but it's also very oversaturated. So it's like you have like these two like sort of opposing factors to at you as a creative, if you want to get into music. So but that being said, it's still one of the most powerful forms of art. 100%. I mean, and I don't want to sound biased because I'm a musician, and like that's like, my main form of like creative expression, but like I
Well,
think music is like probably like
at the
top.
top, yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're all fans before we're actually, creators.
Mhm.
So it's like, you know, I mean, do I like cinematography and all that stuff? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love watching guys like Casey Neistat make these really dope epic vlogs out of, be run around New York City and be like, oh, look at me, I'm Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
But I I think music is just absolutely the best. I mean, I think too, because I mean, your parents are from the 60s, 70s era, and I think maybe because I don't know what it was like in your household growing up, but my house, like there was always music playing, whether it was Zeppelin, the Beatles, or
Yeah.
Shaka
So
Khan, or any of that kind of stuff.
yeah, so it was mainly my dad. My dad was like a huge like music. I mean, he still is. My dad's just like he's a creative person. He loves to make things, and he was, because he had like older brothers that were also super into like music. He like introduced me to music, and what was cool, and what got, I think originally what got me into music was like my dad would show me these songs that he really vibed with, and then he would tell me why he liked them. And that's like, it's different when you just like show someone a song and it's like, oh yeah, this is nice, whatever. But like he would show me like, the Beatles, and or like I remember being 4 years old and my dad put on the Yellow Submarine movie, and my dad like telling me as a 4-year-old kid, he's like, this is the Beatles, they're very important. Here's a movie, and then as I got older, he would continue showing me the Beatles and stuff like that, and like showing me his favorite songs and telling me, he's like, this is this song is about this and this song is about that, and this, he wrote it because he was feeling like this. It was like, it kind of gave me context growing up, and I think that was super important. I kind of blame him for making me so like, for getting me super like nerdy about music, because it was like there's so much that goes into it, and like there's so much history behind music too, that like how can you not like
Nerd
geek
out and geek
out? Yeah.
out and be like, oh wait, what kind of amp did they use on this record during this day?
Yeah. Or like why, or what is the song about, or like this song was written during this time when it was like there was like social unrest or something like that, like historically, like you start getting really into like what was going on, not just like from like the artist's point of view, but what was going on around him too, or her,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a classic example of this would be like Hendrix playing, the Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock,
yeah. Well,
and
the
as
Woodstock
a
movie, you
yeah,
know.
just the whole thing, like the anti-war movement and stuff like
Mhm.
that spawned it out of the the 60s against being anti Vietnam War. Um, but yeah, I totally agree. Now, did your since you come from a Cuban background, did your dad listen to a lot of Cuban music also growing up?
So my mom's Cuban, my dad's Dominican. So
No doubt.
Yeah. Super Caribbean, you know. Yeah, like I was my dad showed me a lot of, I mean, growing up like Latin, like especially like being raised
Miami.
in Miami,
Mhm.
like Latin music, Cuban, like salsa, merengue, you know, bachata, reggaeton, all that stuff is like you grow up listening to that like just walking down the street. You
Right.
know, it's like part of, you know, the just being here, especially if you're Latino, you know. Um, so I think for me, like, you know, my parents listen to like Latin music, like, you know, my dad would show me Latin music stuff, like, so, like, what was really cool though is that my dad would show me like, he would show me like artists. There was this one artist my dad would show me that was like an underground musician from the Dominican Republic. That was like one of the first to like mix like Dominican folk music with rock music. And he's like, nobody knows about this guy. Only like the like people that are in it in the DR know about this guy. So like he would show me, and I was like, yo, this is really good. This
That
is
sounds awesome.
yeah. His name
So
is
Oh, you got the name? Hell yeah. Let me get that.
his name is Luis Diaz, but his nickname his artist name is El Terror. So it's Luis El Terror Diaz. This is like really cool. So he has a song called El Accidente, which is the accident. And one of my favorite songs that he showed me growing up was like it's like him, the main character, being involved in a car accident and then waking up, but he's dead, and then looking in the mirror and then seeing like someone in the lyrics is hilarious. It's like that he sees in the mirror of like a reflection that could be either Jesus Christ or Kurt Cobain. But he sings it in Spanish, and I'm
Yeah.
just my dad would show that to me, and my dad would laugh, and I think like I would find the humor in that too. He was like, it's so funny, like just like listening to it, but at the same time, it's like really cool and like really weird for it being like super underground Dominican like folk rock. You know, it's like kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's sick. I got to dive more into Dominican rock and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
bands from that region, just because like I don't know, there's so much great music from all around the world, and it's cool because like sometimes like I have a buddy in South Africa. His name's Synth Peter. That's his artist name,
Mhm.
and he sent me a bunch of like cool like electronic beats and stuff, and uh yeah, just tons of great art from all around the world, and it's cool
Yeah,
that we can all share it.
there was a period where I was getting, I mean, specifically, I mean, when you're a songwriter, like specifically for me and like bed scene and stuff, I get really into like periods, like musical periods. So there was a time during like my bed scenes like second EP where I was getting really into like um melodic songs from Spain and like Latin America. And this is like melodic songs. It's like a genre. Like it's kind of like um, another type of way of calling it is like boleros. You know, it's just like romantic melodic songs, and it's a lot of them used like you know the 2-5-1 progression. It's like super romantic, like very beautiful music, but like I got really into it, and there's like a few that I really liked. There's this one artist from like Spain. Her name is Jeanette, and Jeanette, she has like this like really soft voice that like a lot of like in like singers in like the indie world are sounding like now, and like they're citing her as an influence. But she has like this sort of like soft like indie girl voice, but she's singing in Spanish with like a little bit of an accent because she was born in England and then moved to Spain. So she's singing like all these like sort of melodic songs in Spanish, and I totally fucked with it because it was like really cool, and like the instrumentation was like really interesting, um, and like it was just kind of a fun and interesting kind of deep dive into like a specific genre that I wasn't familiar with, and then kind of like basing a whole like EP around this style. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do my version of that genre,
Yeah.
you know?
Now, when you were I saw on your Instagram you went to Greece not too long ago. Now,
Yeah.
did you do any like musical explorations while you were there? Did you try and check out a show or anything like that?
So we did. Okay, I have like two random stories. I guess when we were in Mykonos, Mykonos is no. It's like an island off like, you know, Greece has like a bunch of little islands, and Mykonos is like known is like one of the islands that's known for its like, you know, nightlife. Um, so in Mykonos, we were there, just like walking around, and we were. I was looking for live music for like the whole week. I was like, I haven't seen like live music anywhere. I've seen like, you know, just people kind of like playing like whatever here and there, but I haven't seen like live music. So we found this piano bar, and this like these two. There were these two like a man and a woman, kind of fairly young, probably like my age, uh, and you know, the guy set up his like piano, and it was just like, oh, cool, he's just gonna play piano. The guy started singing. Swear to God, he was Greece. He was Greek. He was Greek because when he spoke with like an accent. But when he started singing, I swear to God, he sounded like he was like raised in like the Bayou, Louisiana. Like he had like that like grit, like kind of reminded me of like Hosier. I don't know if you've heard Hosier, but it was just like
Yeah,
that gospel, you
kind of
know.
Creole, kind of just southern,
It was
like from the he might as well have been raised in the swamps, kind of
yeah, like,
vocalist.
but he was singing like Michael Jackson covers, but he was singing them with like his sort of like gravelly voice, and I'm just like, man, like this guy has like some serious pipes because he could sing so well. And he did like a few songs, and I was just like blown away. He did a few songs, and then the woman came and she sang, and she sounded like she was just as good. She sounded like Amy Winehouse, like super intense, like voice, really, really crazy singing. But then they like busted out some Greek songs. Um, they sang like two Greek songs and then like one French song, and I was like, after they performed, after you know, they played, she was outside, and I was like, I really appreciated those Greek songs. Out of all like the Michael Jackson covers and all the covers you guys did, the Greek songs were like, I think, my favorite. And she's like, thank you so much. We try to incorporate that because like, you know, people only, you know, they only vibe with like the stuff they know. But I was like, no, that's like my shit. Like
Yeah.
those like folk songs that like nobody knows about, you know. Um, yeah, so we did see some of that. There was another like I remember we would see like there was like this I think like this little boy playing like our I think it was like a darbuka drum. It's kind of like a
Hmm.
small hand drum, and he was singing. He kept repeating this line from a song, and then I was like, "What song is he singing?" Because and it was like the only thing I was able to like understand because it was all in Greek except for like the one lyric, and it was the lyric was "Po po po Maria, po 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 Maria." I was like, "What is he singing?" So I looked up. I went on Google and I found, and that's just like a common like Greek song, and I was just like, "Yo, I love this song." So that was like, I was like annoying my wife with that song. I was like playing it like while I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, like "Po po po Maria."
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Uh,
yeah, Greek music has a lot of like Arabic sort of tonality. 'Cause it's just general Mediterranean. So like
yeah, well,
yeah,
Ottoman Empire, Turkish
hmm
people.
you kind of just like hear it. It's easy to like confuse it with like Arabic music, but it has a lot of the same sort of tonality. Um, it's
The
beautiful.
phrasing. Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Well, I'm happy for you that, now once again, congratulations on being a
Thank
married
you, man.
man.
Thank you.
That is super rad. Um, so what is the next step for you though musically? Like we've talked about a bunch, we've talked about AI and music technology and so forth, but like what is the next big thing for Nick Aponte?
Uh, big thing, huh?
Do you want to tour with BEDSCENE? Is that
Uh,
like kind of the
yeah, there's been talks of touring. Um, although nothing's been kind of set in stone with that yet. I'd like to eventually. I think right now I'm focusing on just like releasing music. I do like performing, but performing does get a little much sometimes. It's not something that I would want to do like as my main thing. And I say that now. I mean, who knows? I might change my mind. But I am more focused on just like releasing music and songs and just kind of being as prolific as I can with with BEDSCENE. Just because you never know, like in the future, something might happen, and either I can't tour anymore, but at least I have like a bunch of music out, or I won't be able to perform or whatever, or like I get like a licensing deal or something like that with like my music, just because I've made the decision to put out a lot and put out a lot of music.
Do you feel like I mean, we were talking about kind of social media earlier. Do you feel like now in the era of social media, do you think being an artist and not needing a label and just kind of just self-releasing tons and tons of content is kind of the way to go now? So that way you don't have to depend on anybody for your success?
So yes and no. I think labels now. I think um, what I've been seeing a lot of like my friends do, and some like just people like indie artists that I follow on Instagram. They'll just go like the indie label route, and the indie label will have like some sort of a following, and they just kind of help promote, and that's great because like honestly, like artists need so much help promoting because on top of like producing their own music and like performing it, they also need help like with so much stuff, like with you know pushing it, letting people know that it's out there. On top of that, like working a job to support themselves, unless like they're at a level where they don't have to work anymore. But it's a lot of work, and people like don't really think about it, and like people undermine it. Artists do it because they really like it. They love that grind. So yeah, like you could do it all yourself. I mean, we have like the technology and the resources now to just like reach so many people all over the world at our disposal without the use of a label. I have like people from India reach out to me sometimes and be like, "Yo, I love BEDSCENE," and I'm like, "That's crazy." Like my music reached all over the world, and like halfway across the world. And it's because of stuff like just putting in an ad, or you know putting some money into ads, or like getting your music placed on a playlist, or something like that, just pushing it little by little, and just having lots of music all the time, because there's more chance of people discovering you if there's a lot of music that you
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's just like anything. I mean, you watch all these YouTubers now and they're uploading a video every day just
Mhm.
to push the algorithm to its
Yeah,
extreme. So that way it's like, if we
yeah.
just hammer it home, you know,
Dude, and that's work too. I was trying to do that too. I was trying to put up like a video like once every like maybe week or so, and that's not even that much. But I was trying to put up like I had this idea of doing like cover songs, but in the style of like like the sort of like lo-fi beats kind of thing, but like doing pop songs in that style. Like I did the first one I did was like the Harry Styles song, As It Was, but like in this sort of lo-fi beat sort of style, and like people really liked it. But it's like, I was trying to do that like often, and there was like a point where I was like, I I did it like the fourth time, and it just like didn't do as well as like the past like three other times. I was like, oh, okay, I know that I have to keep going, but social media also. I'm also going to talk about like the mental effects that
sure,
social
go
media,
go for it.
because social media also like you put so much effort into trying to stay relevant on social media that it starts sort of like becoming it starts getting really in your head, and the moment that you start like that you put up a post or something and it doesn't get as many likes, or it doesn't get as much of a engagement as you thought it would, you start to take it really personally, and it starts to really like fuck with your mental health in a way. Yeah, at least that's how it's been with me.
I can 100% agree with that. Like,
It's super annoying. It sort of like clouds your decisions on like, you know, should I release this? Should I not release this? Like, what are people going to think of me? It's really really, that's why like a lot of like the indie artists that I see that are like super successful on social media are like really, at least they seem like they're like, I mean, everyone has like shit that they're dealing with, but they just I guess know how to hide it really well. They're just like really like, yeah, okay, let's go. That's just like not me at all.
like and subscribe now.
Like and subscribe, yeah. Dude, you guys are killing me because I can't do that. I like, I'm
Emotional ups and downs to be that
Yeah.
same level consistently is in. I don't know how people do it, like Mr. Beast or like all these people. Like, I often wonder too, like, are they like autistic? Are they on the spectrum or something? Like, it's like, is that how they're always on that
No,
like
I think
level?
I mean, it's just it's a type of personality trait. It's that's some people are just really good at just hiding it, or just like, they're confident enough in their ability to speak, and they're just like, it's kind of like that, just I'm just happy to be here kind of mentality. They're just like, they're just doing it and they know. But for me, like, I I feel like I've also experienced a bunch of like exterior things that like associated with social media that have like maybe like caused me to like kind of feel a certain way towards it, and that's why I'm kind of, it's kind of a difficult thing to trudge.
I remember a while back having a conversation with a buddy regarding a lot of uh, successful people on social media and or really just on the internet in general. Um, Oftentimes, a lot of them actually tend to be introverts, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
obviously in this day and age, right? Like it's television is a whole other topic, but like right now with our YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and all that, so they thrive well in that, but having a conversation with a real human being is something that's very difficult and almost impossible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have seen that too, where like, you see people, they're just like, um, they have like this mass following, but like they're actually like super introverted, and like that's a case too. But yeah, everyone has like their own sort of story with it, and yeah, I mean, that's just been mine. Um, I get really, really like kind of in my head with it, and it's really easy for me to kind of fall into that. So that's why I've been kind of, kind of treating it as carefully as I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, like I said, I feel the same way. I mean, when I get an Instagram post, like I used to get like, I don't know, 600 or 700 likes on average per post that I would post up on my Instagram. And then, you know, then on now, whenever I upload something, like it might get like 50 likes. And
Mhm.
I'm like thinking to myself, like, did I get shadow banned for
Yeah, that's
that
another.
I just like posted, like just trying to be
Whereas it's
funny?
Instagram. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I try not to take it too seriously because it's like, it's fucking Instagram. Like, who cares? Like same thing with YouTube. I mean, I love YouTube, and by the way, I love everybody that's watching. If you've you know sticking into it this long, thanks. I appreciate you all. But you know, like when you see like, okay, for me, like I have been lucky enough, and then like like the Norway country episode that I'm on and for geography now is like 2.4 million views, right?
That,
And it does something to your psyche,
mhm.
like
Kind of builds your
where
ego a bit. Yeah.
yeah, it definitely does. And not only that, I would say you get all these like comments, and then you start reading through all the YouTube comments, and then you
Oh
get kind of
no.
addicted to reading YouTube comments, and then
No.
what are people saying? And
That's
then
the
you start
worst.
reading all the haters, and then you're like, oh, fuck you, guy. Like, I'm a nice guy. Like, you don't even know me in real life.
Okay, that's like the ass of the internet is the YouTube comment section.
Oh, dude, and I'm just like, I keep
Like,
scrolling, and I'm like, oh my god. But then, there's surprisingly, on average, there's more love for me than there is hate. But like when I do come across the haters, I'm like, fuck this. Like, what are you doing? What are you wasting your time for here?
I was in a I was in a so I was in a McDonald's commercial years ago,
Hell yeah.
and there I found this video of this guy just like talking mad shit about like McDonald's current marketing ways, and like he used like the clip of me, and like everyone's just like, yeah, fuck McDonald's, is like in the comment section, and I had to comment. I was like, hey, I'm the guy in like one of the commercials, like like, and the guy commented back. He's like, oh shit, like I didn't know I would ever reach one of you guys. Like that's so random. I'm like, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. I was wearing like a Chelsea Wolf shirt, and like they blacked out my shirt because they can't have like other like bands on.
Right.
And like they cut my like it was me and my friend, and it was just like they took like a super generic thing my friend said. It's like, yeah, we just love playing music, haha. And then you could tell that I was about to say something, and they just cut it. But it was like the guy was just like talking mad shit about it, and I was just like reading the comments. I was like, this is like I'm not even mad. Like this is more funny than it is anything.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I hope everybody that's watching this, by the way, goes and checks out Nick's music, and support Nick. Nick's a great guy, as we can all tell.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I give you a 5-star rating on Yelp.
Thanks, Keith.
Yeah, dude. Well, now you got to come up from Miami up to the good old Central Florida, and we got to hang out. I'll book you a
Yeah.
show with your band. Let me know.
Yeah.
out.
I guess once that starts up again, yeah, well, for sure. I'd love to go up to Daytona and play, or
Yeah,
just a little central, little Florida tour.
yeah, dude. I can get you Orlando, Daytona, and Tampa. So if you those 3 spots, you got shows. I got your back.
Sick. Thanks.
Hell yeah, anytime. But yeah, well, I think that's gonna kind of conclude our podcast for today. We've been kind of going on for quite some time, but dude, Nick, I just want to say it's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, man.
You haven't changed at all. I love you to death, and let's definitely get together again soon and do this again soon. This was a lot of fun.
For sure, I'd love to. I mean, you could tell I love to talk about stuff like this all the time. Like music and like nerdy stuff about music too. It's like just something that I can go off for a long time about. So, if yeah, I'd love to do this again.
Oh yeah, of course. You'll definitely be back on. I got your back on that. But yeah, dude, Nick, I love you, and this is gonna be us signing out now, I guess. This is like our